Welcome to the Ultimate Fighting Championship, or UFC, the sport that's been making fans across the world feel the adrenaline rush of combat like never before. From humble beginnings to billion-dollar deals, the UFC is now one of the biggest names in global sports. But what makes this organization so successful? And who are the players who've helped build this empire of combat? Today, we're breaking it all down: the business, the stars, and how it's changed the world of sports forever. The UFC was born out of a bold, wild idea in the early 90s, bringing together fighters from all disciplines to see which fighting style was truly the best. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai, wrestling, boxing. The fights were raw, bloody, and unlike anything fans had ever seen. At first it was banned in several states and dismissed as human cockfighting. But as mixed martial arts evolved, so did the UFC. The rules changed, fighters adapted. And in 2001, everything changed when the Fertitta brothers bought the UFC and appointed Dana White as president. This move turned the UFC into a business juggernaut and made Dana White one of the most influential figures in sports. Dana White, the man whose name has become synonymous with the UFC. Known for his brash personality, aggressive business style, and absolute dedication to the sport, White has been at the helm of the UFC for over 2 decades. But White is more than just a promoter. He's a visionary who transformed the UFC from an underground curiosity into a global phenomenon. Under White's leadership, the UFC signed groundbreaking TV deals, created its own streaming platform, and went public with the help of powerhouse investors like Endeavor. But he didn't do it alone. White built the UFC around star fighters who've become household names, and that's where things really get interesting. Love him or hate him, Conor McGregor is one of the biggest names in UFC history. Known for his fierce Irish pride, lightning-fast knockouts, and of course his legendary trash talk, McGregor brought unprecedented attention to the UFC. With his charisma, McGregor has brought in millions of new fans, setting pay-per-view records and earning the UFC more revenue than any other fighter. He was the first to achieve champ status, holding titles in 2 weight classes at the same time, and his crossover boxing match with Floyd Mayweather made headlines across the globe. McGregor understood that being a UFC fighter wasn't just about winning fights, it was about putting on a show. His success blazed a trail for fighters to market themselves as brands, making him a pioneer in the world of mixed martial arts and sports entertainment. On the other side of the cage from McGregor stood another legend, Khabib Nurmagomedov. Raised in the mountains of Dagestan, Russia, Khabib grew up training to be an elite fighter, wrestling bears as a child and honing his skills in Sambo. Known for his incredible grappling and relentless pressure, Khabib remains undefeated, with a record of 29-0. But Khabib isn't just known for his fighting style. His rivalry with McGregor culminated in one of the UFC's most watched, intense battles ever. It wasn't just a fight, it was a cultural clash, a story of respect versus ego, discipline versus showmanship. Khabib's devotion to his family, faith, and discipline has made him an inspirational figure around the world. And in retiring at the peak of his career, he's left an undefeated legacy that few in any sport can match. Then there's Francis Ngannou, the man with a story straight out of a Hollywood script. Ngannou grew up in Cameroon, working in sand mines as a child, and eventually traveling to Europe with nothing but a dream of becoming a champion. He endured homelessness and countless struggles before making it to the UFC, where his raw power and relentless ambition quickly set him apart. Ngannou holds the title of hardest recorded punch in UFC history, a force equivalent to getting hit by a Ford Escort at top speed. His rise to the heavyweight championship is nothing short of extraordinary, symbolizing the power of determination, and he's since become a voice advocating for fighter pay and fair treatment. So how does the UFC actually make its money? It's a highly profitable machine driven by pay-per-view buys, advertising deals, and TV contracts. The UFC's pay-per-view model has proven incredibly lucrative, particularly with major events featuring superstars like McGregor, Khabib, and Ngannou. The UFC also makes money from live event ticket sales, global sponsorships, and merchandise. But its biggest financial weapon has been its ability to control fighters' rights and negotiate contracts that keep athletes tied to the organization. Unlike boxing, where fighters have more freedom, the UFC retains tight control over its fighters' brand, making it one of the most profitable sports organizations on the planet. The UFC is not just a sport, it's a billion-dollar empire. From its early days as a struggling organization facing legal battles and low viewership, the UFC has grown into one of the most profitable sports businesses worldwide. Today, the UFC generates over $1 billion in annual revenue, a stunning feat for a sport that was once on the verge of bankruptcy. So, where does all that money come from? A significant chunk is made through pay-per-view sales, with blockbuster events generating anywhere from $50 million to $100 million per event. Add to that the lucrative broadcasting deals with ESPN and other media networks, sponsorships, merchandise, and ticket sales. It's easy to see how the UFC has built such a formidable revenue stream. Since 2016, the UFC's ownership has shifted. The Fertitta brothers, who helped build the UFC into what it is today, sold the organization to Endeavor, a powerful talent and entertainment conglomerate, in a deal valued at $4 billion. This deal made headlines as one of the largest sports transactions ever. Today, Endeavor owns 100% of the UFC, with Dana White still serving as president and the face of the organization. White has continued to oversee day-to-day operations, maintaining the UFC's unique, aggressive branding and expanding its global reach. Under Endeavor's ownership, the UFC has seen massive international growth, with events in markets like Abu Dhabi, China, and Australia. With steady profitability and a global fan base, the UFC is primed for a major financial leap, a potential IPO. Endeavor has already hinted at an eventual public offering, which could place the UFC's value at well over $10 billion. This would open the organization to public investors, allowing fans and institutional investors alike to own a piece of the UFC's empire. With pay-per-view events drawing millions and a growing portfolio of international venues, the UFC has positioned itself as one of the most profitable sports brands, with profit margins estimated at around 30%. Its financial success has turned heads in the investment world, leading many to wonder when, not if, it will go public. From 2016 to 2023, the UFC's revenue has continued to grow at an impressive rate. Even during challenging times, such as the COVID-19 pandemic, the UFC found ways to innovate, staging events on Fight Island in Abu Dhabi and negotiating major streaming deals to reach fans stuck at home. Looking forward, the UFC's growth potential is massive. With strongholds in North America, the organization is rapidly expanding its footprint in Asia, the Middle East, and South America. Markets like China and the UAE have shown incredible enthusiasm for the sport, with the UFC hosting record-breaking events in these regions. In addition to geographical expansion, the UFC has doubled down on digital content, with platforms like UFC Fight Pass and social media engagement bringing in younger audiences. New sponsorships, training programs, and collaborations with brands like Reebok have opened even more revenue streams. For Endeavor, the UFC is more than a sports league, it's a versatile media empire with global appeal. The UFC continues to grow as it expands into new markets worldwide, creating stars from all corners of the globe, with names like Israel Adesanya, Kamaru Usman, and Amanda Nunes now leading the charge. The UFC's future is bright and fiercely competitive. But questions remain, from fighter pay to ownership rights to the growing demands of the sport itself. The UFC is no longer just a fight organization, it's an empire built on grit, spectacle, and relentless promotion. For fans, it's an unmissable spectacle. For fighters, it's an opportunity for glory, wealth, and the chance to make history. And for Dana White, McGregor, Khabib, Ngannou, and countless others, the UFC has been the ultimate proving ground. The UFC is more than just fights. It's a brand, a business, and a global phenomenon. With its strong revenue, potential for an IPO, and international expansion, the UFC is setting itself up for a future as dominant and unbreakable as its fighters. For Dana White and Endeavor, this is just the beginning of what could become one of the most valuable brands in the world of sports. This is the UFC, a story of power, profits, and the relentless pursuit of becoming the ultimate fighting organization on the planet. And its journey is far from over. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe and turn on the notification bell for more knowledge drops.